What's going on, everybody out there? This here is Grand Prix GTP02 here once again up here at Humble Hyundai here in North Houston, Texas. And today, for y'all's viewing pleasure and entertainment, I am here to introduce to everybody out there what can only be described as one of the biggest soccer mom icons of all time. I am, of course, talking about the minivan. Now, if you are the type of person who is a true fan of the van, then you really don't have that much of a broad choice when it comes to buying one of these type of vehicles here on the 2015 model year market. You, of course, have the domestic brands such as Dodge and Chrysler, which have vans such as the Caravan, and then, of course, the luxury-equipped Town & Country. Then, of course, you have ones that look like vans but are more classified as wagons, such as the Ford Transit and the Ford Transit Connect passenger wagon. But then, of course, you have the import brands, one of the bigger selling categories of minivans on the market. You, of course, have Toyota with the Sienna, you have Nissan with the wacky-looking Quest, and then, of course, you have the popular selling brand that we have here. What you guys are looking at is the 2013 Honda Odyssey. Now, if you have never even heard of a Honda Odyssey, then I suggest you check your memory level, because these vans have been around for almost as long as I've been alive. As far back as I can remember, I remember people growing up in my hometown of Discovery Bay, California. I can remember so many people having the very first generation of the Honda Odyssey way back in the early to mid 90s. But now here today, you're looking at perhaps one of the craziest design vans that I've actually ever seen on the market. And this one isn't even the current generation. In 2014, meaning the model year right after this one, they actually changed the design yet again. So this one here, this particular generation that you're looking at, was only around from 2011 to 2013. So only a span of 2 years before Honda decided to change it yet again. Now, Honda has been one of those brands that never really can seem to make up its mind, and the Odyssey is not the first vehicle that I've seen in the modern day market where Honda has made a design and then only a year or two later they really aren't happy with it and then they change it around again. The first example I can think of is the Honda Civic, one of the best-selling compact cars on the market, where they basically made a new design after one of the newer generations and one of my favorite generations of the Civic, which ended in 2011. They made one in 2012. They weren't happy with it. They changed it in 2013, and now here for 2014 and 15, I think they've changed it even yet again. And again, the Odyssey is really no exception, but there have been a few design cues that Honda actually took from their older Odysseys to actually create this newer generation Odyssey as well. For a start, I mean, this thing is huge. It is not the tallest van in the world. It actually, if anything, is a little more car-like, because I'm about 6'1", and my head is perfectly aligned with the topmost portion of the roof. So it's not exactly the smallest van on the world, but it is not the tallest one either. Now, most people who want to buy vans like this, or vehicles that carry as many people as a minivan, well, you really have a couple of different options. You can either buy a massive, more or less fuel efficient 6 or 7 passenger SUV, or you can buy a minivan. Now, there are a lot more 6 and 7 passenger SUVs, such as those Hyundai Santa Fe's over there, than there are minivans, but people still love these things for everything from carrying large families to even actually putting them to work. I've seen people using these for like floral services. I've seen them for using just about anything. I've even seen them used for postal service, you know, vans like this, not the Honda Odyssey, but I've actually seen vans like this used for all sorts of purposes. Now, for the 2013 Honda Odyssey, you could have this thing in an absolute massive amount of trim levels. I mean, there are about as many trim levels for the Odyssey as there are options on some of the competitive vehicles out there. Now, for the 2013 model year, you could have it as a base LX, you could have it as the EX, you could have it as the EXL, as we have here. You could have the EXL with navigation, the Touring, and finally the topmost trim, the Touring Elite. Now, the EXL that you're looking at here is finished in a beautiful alabaster silver metallic, so a very nice, suitable color for a minivan. These aren't like luxury cars where you find them in all the boring colors like, you know, black, silver, beige, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there really aren't that many color options to begin with on these. There wasn't even like a bright red. There was more like a dark cranberry color that you could get for these. I think there was a dark blue at one point. but really there aren't a huge amount of colors for this thing. But overall, I must say I actually do like this Odyssey. I mean, it's comfortable, it's nice, and just driving it over to the small location where we have the vehicle sitting right now, I must admit I was actually quite impressed. The driving position's fantastic. I mean, I do feel a little bit vulnerable with the short nose and long back end of this van, but all the same though, you pretty much have the complete package. You have a nice powerful V6 up front, or it's not too powerful, but it's enough to move the entire bulk of this van. You have all sorts of options that we'll go through here in just a bit, and above all, you have this really awesome and somewhat quirky shape. Now, just a few quick specs before we go any further. Like I said, this one here is in alabaster silver, and it's finished with a black and light gray leather upholstered interior. And as I also mentioned, kind of going over it just a little bit again, this is not the topmost trim level. This is what you would kind of call the middle child of the Odyssey line. This is the Odyssey EXL. This one does not have navigation, so it is not the most expensive van on the market, but nor is it the cheapest. The cheapest belonging to the LX, the most expensive belonging to the Touring Elite. Now, here on the EXL, you have the standard machine-finished 17-inch aluminum alloy wheels. They do have painted surfaces on the inside, this kind of dark gray painted finish to contrast the machine finish here on the front. If you go for the Touring Elite or Touring models, you're going to upgrade just a little bit. I think you upgrade to 18s. Tire size on this, 235/65 R17. So not the biggest wheels, but then again, fatter tires means a better ride, which means that this is one of the more comfortable type vehicles on the market today. Now, a few quick things. We'll kind of go front to back one more time and just take another quick look around this vehicle. As you can see here, standard on this EXL, you have the standard projector headlights. I think on the Touring Elite, you can get them as high intensity discharge lights. These here, I do believe, are halogen lights, but I like the way they've laid out the interior of these lights. I mean, all the small details actually work. On the daytime running lights, which are these inside bulbs here, you've got this nice silver etched trim that goes along the lower part here. This grille is huge, and it doesn't really look like it's smiling at you. I mean, it doesn't look kind of like a huge grin. It just kind of looks more like your everyday kind of mom and pop minivan. You of course have the black or gray plastic trim, but it's accented nicely with these small chrome trim pieces here. This kind of looks like an air intake underneath for the radiator, which I do believe it is, because I can see the radiator behind there. But again, like I said, I kind of feel vulnerable, and I think that's why a lot of people don't buy vans like this or vehicles like this, because that nose is so short that if involved in an impact, even with as many safety features and airbags and everything else that this van would have, I just feel a little bit vulnerable with such a short space between the firewall in the driver's compartment of the vehicle and the very tip of the front bumper. Now, moving along the side, one of the signature features of this van is the power rear doors, and we'll go over how that works here in a bit, but there's 3 ways that you can actually open this thing. There's a button on the inside, there's the key fob, and then you can just tug on the door handle, and assuming the power rear doors are on, because you do have the option to turn them off, and you'll see where here in just a second, they will actually, just with a tug of the handle, slide all the way back, allowing easy entry into the rear of the van. Now, coming around to the back, again, I can see a lot of older Odyssey kind of design cues in this vehicle here. Starting off looking at the taillights here, you can have standard halogen taillight bulbs, which are what we have here. They look like LEDs with these sort of fake LED etched frosted pieces here inside the light housing. I believe if you got the Touring or the Touring Elite, they would then turn into LEDs. Again, the higher you go on the trim level, the more options you're going to see. But with this, one of the things that I did notice is that I had a friend of mine whose mom had I believe a 2000 Odyssey back in the day, and it looked very similar to this. The taillights didn't wrap around, they wrapped around pretty much the whole back end. As you can see, these are a little bit more separate here, but I kind of see the older Odyssey's taillights kind of turned upside down and then cut short of the license plate. Beforehand, they stopped right about here or here, and before that even, they went all the way across the back tailgate, which, by the way, it does have a power tailgate, and we'll show you all that here in just a bit. Now, so we've had a pretty good walk around of the exterior of this Odyssey, so let's go ahead and open her up and climb inside. Now, here's the key to the Odyssey. As you can see, it's a much bigger key than your standardized Honda key. Normally, most Hondas that have this style key fob, which is inverted cut, as you can see as well, they usually just have unlock, lock, trunk, and then panic. But as you can see, they made this key fob bigger to make way for the power rear doors, the power access button for the rear doors. But we'll go ahead and open it up. As you can see, Humble Hyundai here also does have both keys to this vehicle, so just a side note. And then opening the door to this Odyssey, first off, the door handles are enormous, plenty of gripping, and when you shut it, it sounds nice and solid, just like you'd expect a van to be. Very good build quality, Honda. I like your thinking on this van. But anyways, as I said, accenting this alabaster silver exterior is a beautiful black and light gray leather upholstered interior. The EXL, of course, will come with leather. You can get it, I think, as low as the EX. The LX, I know, of course, does not come with leather. But in the EXL here, you can see very nice plush leather seats. Starting off here on the door, material-wise, you've got nice padded materials, almost like a leather up here on the uppermost portion of the door. Of course, you got a little bit of plastic, but very soft touch plastics as well. They're not super hard, cheap feeling plastics. Some of the competitors, mainly the Toyota Sienna, being that I've driven one of those, there's a lot of plastics, not too much in the way of plush leather feeling materials. But here you've also got nice leather padding on the armrest. Of course, you got all your electronic conveniences. I mean, they are found all over the interior of this thing. But just here on the door, you got your standard power mirrors, window locks, child protective safety locks once you put the vehicle in gear. You also have power door locks, automatic up, down, driver and passenger window here in the front, and also powered rear windows to go along with it. Also got a nice little secondary bit of storage down here just beneath the huge armrest and door handle itself. Then also you've got even more storage down below with a nice bottle holder to boot. There is an absolute boatload of space here in the front, but also you have a manual tilting and telescoping steering wheel as standard. I do believe if you step up to the Touring or the Touring Elite, this turns into a power tilting wheel. To the left of the steering column, you have your controls for the power rear doors. Again, you can turn that off or turn it on. We'll leave it on so we can show you how that works. You got the power lift gate, and then of course you also have traction control as well. But stepping inside of this van, I mean, you don't even really step down, even though the floor is so low, or the step-in point is so low on this vehicle. You pretty much slide in because the chairs are set up a lot higher. As you can see here on the passenger side, it is a power adjustable seat. You got power distance control, power recline, and I do believe also powered lumbar support as well, just at least a little right there in the middle of your back. But looking directly in front of you, there is a button, a dial, a switch, a knob. There's just something for all sorts of controls found throughout this vehicle. And I mean, there's a whole lot to cover. For start, let's look at the center console here. Up top, this is where you would normally have a navigation screen. This one does have a backup camera, and I'll show you how that works here in a second. But you have Honda's typical LCD display up here. It displays your radio, climate, all sorts of stuff like that. Then moving below that, you also have the controls for your climate control system. It's a dual zone system with rear mounted air conditioning, which you can see is up there just above the right rear door, and I'll show you how that works here in just a bit. You have your on-off button, sync. You have your two-stage heated seats for both the driver and passenger here in the front. I do believe if you stepped up to the Touring Elite, you could actually get heated rear seats as well. I'm not absolutely sure on that, but again, so many modern minivans have that kind of convenience nowadays. You also have rear air conditioning temperature controls. You also have climate zones, fan speed, air conditioning, rear defroster along with heated mirrors, and also the front defroster as well. So quite a lot to go over just in the air conditioning in and of itself, but then you move down and then you have this monster control panel here. Now, there may look like a lot of buttons, but there's really not too much in the way of being confused here. This is all your radios up here. So you've got your AM and FM, XM satellite radio, CD and CD player, and iPod, USB, and auxiliary input, which I actually have not even found where that goes. I think it's down here somewhere. Anyways, all your preset radio stations, scan and clock function. You've got the power button here in the center. And then moving below it, you have your skip function, so track back and forth, your categories, say for your XM satellite radio. Then of course you have this small deal here, which allows you to tune the radio. This would also be turned into the navigation button if this was an EXL with nav and up. You have the return button, hands-free phone, change the display, and then also you just have a vehicle setup as well. And also, if you want to tune the radio, you push this button here, and then you can select back and forth. Now, transmissions and power plants for this thing, there was only one available engine for this thing paired with only one specific transmission. As far as the transmission goes, it's Honda's standard 5-speed automatic. You don't get a manual shift mode or anything like that. You do get what is labeled as D3. I think it's like a overdrive on here. Other than that, you got park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then your low gear, say if you're going down a steep grade or something like that. You do have two 12-volt, 120-volt alternating current outlets, or AC outlets. You've got this giant cubby right here, nice little drink holder, and then even more storage located down below. So this is, again, this is really a soccer mom kind of vehicle. If you've got kids and you want to keep like some of their little toys that they like to take on the road, there is just a crap load of space down there. I can get my hand all the way halfway up my arm down in there. Also, as you can see, you've got a cool box hidden in the rear, or maybe in here, I'm not sure. I think it's in the back somewhere. This is your iPod auxiliary input, as you can see right there. Not sure where the USB went, but moving up here to the steering wheel and the gauges and everything else directly in front of you, you've got voice command and hands-free Bluetooth on the left-hand side of the wheel, along with hands-free radio. Then, of course, you have your cruise control settings on the right. As far as the steering wheel goes, it's a perforated or lightly perforated leather-trimmed wheel for the EXL. Very, very light bolstering extensions at about 10 and 2 o'clock. Nice supple feel to the leather, even though this van is over 2 years old already. Very, very nice feeling to the wheel itself. And the steering, I believe, is electric steering as well. Typical Honda gauges up there, they do illuminate once you stick the key in the ignition, and you'll see that here momentarily. This one also, as you can see, has an optional sunroof to go with it. So definitely a nice option as well. You got all of your lights and stuff. I think also if you just tilt this enough, you have a small mirror that allows you to see into the rear of the van. A lot of passenger vans having that nowadays. On top of all that, you have the HomeLink garage door system to boot as well. Now, firing up this 2013 Odyssey is certainly not a chore. On this EXL model, as you can see, it has two standard keys. You also get a valet key with the vehicle, I believe, which is used for things such as starting the vehicle, but cannot access the glove box or any other parts of the vehicle other than the door locks and the ignition itself. Push button ignition was available on the Odyssey, I do believe, in the Touring and Touring Elite. Touring, I think you had to get it as an option, but on the Touring Elite, at least for 2014 and up, I know you can get it as standard. But sticking the key in the ignition here, you of course hear Honda's standard chime that they've used for God knows how many years. It's kind of a modernized, much softer one that they went to quite a few years ago. The gauges actually do light up once you put the key in the ignition. You'd notice it if it was a little bit darker outside, but go ahead and turn it on and the dash lights up like a Christmas tree. As you can see, this one here has done very few miles for a 2013, kind of average miles, about 10,000 a year. It's done 21,326 miles, but you turn the key and what you hear come to life up front is Honda's 3.5 liter single overhead cam VTEC equipped V6. It's kind of a detuned version of the motor that Honda has used basically in every car from the Accord, even into their luxury lines such as Acura's TL and so on. And it really makes a nice sound, it really does. Honda always seems to have a good understanding of how to make a V6 sound. As I said, it's equipped with Honda's VTEC system. We'll get to that here in just a bit. These gauges are just beautiful. I love the electroluminescent layout. Got a nice silver sort of brushed background just behind the numbers on the tachometer and on the speedometer here, so it gives it a nice little luxurious appeal. As far as the feel of the steering goes, it's nice and light, very nice and fluid. I do believe, like I said before, it's an electric power steering system, so nice and fluid, easy to drive. These things are not sports cars, so the steering may feel a little numb to some people, but in my hands it feels nice and fluid. Like I said, one more time, this car has Honda's 5-speed automatic transmission, so as you can see, we got low gear. Put it in drive, you can hit the D3 button. I do believe that's overdrive. Then of course, like I said, this one does have a backup camera, so you put it in reverse, As you can see, you got nice trajectory there in the back. This one doesn't have backup sensors, so it doesn't beep as you back up, so you do have to look at the camera as you're actually backing up. But put it in park. The vehicle does have child protective safety locks, and once all doors are closed, you put the vehicle in gear, it will automatically lock the vehicle to prevent anyone from exiting. Now, a few other things as we go down the center console here. As I said, also, there's a nice little center console storage here, and you also have dual cup holders here in the front. So quite a lot of storage to be had in this minivan here. We've pretty much covered everything here. As far as the radio station goes, it's not too bad to actually listen to. And as you can see, first off, that's one of my favorite songs. It takes me back a little bit. But as you can see, this is Honda's LCD, kind of electroluminescent display. Very, very easy to read. If this had navigation, you would have a button for Navi down here for your map, for your destination, and so on. And this would also turn into a navigation wheel as well. Like I said, it can get a little confusing because most people would just expect one big knob to to power on and control the volume, and then a smaller one maybe to control the audio controls such as bass, treble, and so on and so forth. But really, altogether, it's not too confusing once you actually can understand it very well. So now we'll go ahead and get under the hood, and the hood latch is a little bit of a chore to get to. It's hidden flush right here by your kind of dead pedal, since this car is an automatic, and you just pull on the latch there. Go ahead and roll down the window here, and we'll go ahead and take a look under the hood of this beast. Again, no chimes, beeps, none of that kind of jazz, because this car doesn't have push-button ignition on it. But if it did, you'd probably hear some kind of horn chime or something like that to let you know that the key fob's exited the vehicle. But once you raise the hood of the Odyssey, you find their 3.5 liter single overhead cam 24 valve V6. Now this 3.5 V6 has been used in a lot of Honda and even Acura's cars. They use it in everything from the TL to the Accord, to all sorts of vehicles that use this particular engine here. The numbers are okay. It's 248 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. This car does have the variable cam management, which I believe is what VCM stands for. It also has what they call i-VTEC, or their intelligent valve timing electronic control. That's what VTEC stands for. So when you raise the RPMs up a little bit, it does include that second camshaft phase. If you're looking for fuel efficiency, the minivan really isn't the way to go. This thing is rated at 18 in the city and 27 on the highway, and the fuel tank of this thing is not small. It's 21 gallons to fill this thing all the way to the brim. So getting that kind of mileage, I mean, if you feather it, you'll probably get around 20 to 21 in the city and probably about 28 or so, or maybe even more on the highway. So all down to the technology in the engine, but it all over is a very beautiful and smooth power plant. So well done, Honda, for making such a nice motor. And as you can see, once you power up the vehicle, the daytime running lights automatically come on. Those are an automatic function on pretty much any and all Honda vehicles. It doesn't matter whether it's in gear or not. Once you power it up, you will have these automatic lights that turn on. Also, one final note, as you can see on this EXL, fog lights are optional on this. You don't get any lower ones unless you get like the Touring or the Touring Elite. But now that we've had a good look under the hood, we've had a good look inside the driver's compartment of the vehicle, we can go ahead and get into the powered rear doors. Now, like I said, there are 3 ways to open this. You can do it via the key, you can do it via one of the buttons right here. This allows it to open and close right next to the steering column. But also, as I said, it's kind of a magic trick that I think most kids would actually love. You just tug on the door handle. You don't have to push the door open or anything. You just give it a pull. And as you can see, as if by magic, the door just automatically floats back to its open position. Now, for this minivan, this one here has space for 8 people. It has 2 full bench rows here for the second row and also for the third row of seats in the back. You have a nice little leather-bound armrest. And of course, stepping in, you don't really have to duck your head that much, even though I am of a taller stature. Really not that hard. These seats are a bit firm, but they do have a bit of plushness to them. I mean, it doesn't feel like this van was used very, very much. Either that or the people barely used it at all, whoever the previous owners of this van were. You can also fold this center console down. I believe it's really hard to do this kind of stuff one-handed. But neither here nor there. I mean, the seating position is wonderful. As is typical with a minivan, I have absolute loads of legroom, and also you can close the door if perhaps you don't want to bug the driver to close the door, you can also close it via the button right here as well, as you can see. Also here on the door you have these manual sunshades, so if perhaps you have a young one who doesn't like the sunlight very much, you can put these up to provide a little bit better shade for the back seat of your vehicle. This also does have a giant rear window to roll all the way down, allowing plentiful open air capabilities. And also if you want to open the door, you don't have to hit the button here, you can just tug on the handle here as well. So much technology they pack into these minivans. I'm surprised more car companies aren't making vehicles like this. But anyways, if you want to also access the rear seat of this van, you just pull on this. The seat automatically slides forward. Now, getting into the third row of any large vehicle such as this, I mean, is not the most comfortable place to be. The headrest, you have to lift these things way up in order to actually get any form of comfort out of them. If you put them down when they're not in use and someone tries to sit back here, these things are going directly into somebody's back, and it doesn't feel too particularly pleasant, as I just found out. But sitting in the third row of this van, I mean, it's nice and comfortable. It's not, I mean, the most optimal place to be, but you at least have a commanding view of the second row and ultimately of the road ahead. So well done, Honda, for making a nice, comfortable third row seat. Don't find too many vehicles on the road nowadays that are actually like that. Getting out, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world either. I can get out with relative ease. And you just push the seat back, put the seat belt in place, and away you go. Love those power doors. They've always been a favorite feature of mine. Even my friend's mom's older 2000s Honda Odyssey had those power doors. Now, as I said, on this EXL, it also does come with a power tailgate release as well. So you just pull on the trigger. You can open it up like that. But it also does have a power tailgate feature, and I'll go ahead and show you how that works. And now looking into the trunk of the Odyssey, you can see there is quite a large amount of space back here. And aside from the power tailgate, one of the other things that you get here in the furthest back end of the Odyssey is not only a lot of storage space and a few things like that, you kind of get what Honda calls their stowing magic seat, kind of a fancified term. But what you'd basically do is once the headrests are all put down, you pull back on this, and as you can see, the seat will come all the way back. Now, it's very difficult to do one-handed here, and I'll go ahead and insert a separate clip to show you how that works. But now, as you can see, with the third row of seats tucked neatly away into its small cubby here in the floor, you can see you've got oodles of space back here. So any of your kids' sports gear, if you're that type of parent, you have kids that are involved in sports activities and so on, you have a boatload of space that you can put stuff back here. Or maybe if you're the type of person who uses this van for business, you can use this back space here for a lot of different things. But to pull the seat out, there's no latch. You just pull it up and fling it forward. Very hard to do. As you can see, it just latches right in place. Then just pull the strap and lock the seat into place. And we'll do the same with the other side here as well. They do close with a bit of a clunk, so do be careful. Gonna hold that in place there. There. Pretty easy to do. Now also the power tailgate can be closed with a small button here. And again, you can open it via the key fob or the button right by the driver's door. Now, like I said in all of my other videos here, I am not the salesperson here at Humble Hyundai, so if you want to find out more information on this particular van or any inventory that Humble Hyundai currently has in its inventory, just feel free to visit humblehyundai.com or call their direct line that I have put in the description box below. Never get enough of those power doors. Just love that. Now, one thing I did want to show you involves us crawling into the passenger side of this van is the rear air conditioning up here as well, up here on the this upper pillar here. You do have these small little vents that are located right up here, so they blow directly on your face. You also have that over there, along with a small reading light and interior light as well. But with this, you have kind of the same controls that you did in the front. You have an on-off button here, which I believe you have to turn it on from the front. But anyways, you have the on-off button, you have your climate controls, and then you also have your temperature controls and fan speeds and whatnot as well. So relatively easy to use and everything else as well. And again, the build quality on this Honda van is actually very good. I mean, just listen when you close the door. It doesn't sound clunky or tinny. It's just nice, soft thunk. I mean, there is a little bit of a metallic, kind of, not a huge clunk, but you do hear a little bit of metallicness in the door itself, but not cheap feeling by any measure of the imagination. Also, as you can see, the passenger seat here, as we can see, is also power adjustable. You do not get powered lumbar, but you do get power recline and power distance control to go along with it. I mean, everything in this van feels of very good quality. The leather seats are nice and plush. As far as torso support and everything for the driver and passenger, sitting inside of this van is like just sinking back into your favorite leather recliner, except without the little thing that kicks out from the bottom. I mean, I can compare this to a couple of different things. I can kind of compare it to actually riding on a train, believe it or not. I know that sounds a little bit awkward for me to say, but you have so much legroom here in the front, and this one's put a little bit far forward. But you know, you get a whole plethora of legroom in here. The seats are unbelievably comfortable, even more comfortable than on an airplane or a train or anything like that. So again, another benefit of the minivan means, hello, road trip. Anyways, so getting inside the glove box of this thing, there's not the biggest amount of space in there, but you do have all your standard books and reading materials, and that is where your USB is hidden. It's labeled right here, but as you can see, it's this tiny, tiny little cord that is hidden right in the far left-hand side of the glove box. So kind of a unique place to hide your USB. Now, as far as the glove box goes, it is damped. It does fall nice and softly, but it's not lined with felt or anything like that. And as far as everything else goes on the dashboard, nice padded materials here, separated by a nice metallic gray piece, and also a little bit firmer touch plastics farther up on the dashboard. But again, nobody's really gonna reach up there and do that kind of stuff anyway. Absolutely wonderful finding getting the chance to explore one of these beautiful vans. So guys, as I said, I hope you've enjoyed this nice little walkthrough of our 2013 Honda Odyssey EXL with a power sunroof and all the options included. If you've enjoyed this review and you want to come check out this van, again, see the vehicle's ad in the description box below, or you can call Humble Hyundai about it and find out more information, or visit their website at humblehyundai.com or their sales direct hotline at 832-644-4000 and ask for any particular salesman you wish. Now, if you guys have enjoyed this and want to come check it out, feel free to do so and tell them Bobby or Grand Prix GTP02 sent you on your trip. Again, guys, this has been Grand Prix GTP02 up here at Humble Hyundai. Hope you've enjoyed the walkthrough as much as I have, and I'll see you again next time. Take care, everybody, and have a good one.